In this video, we're going to start creating our categories. So first, let's scroll up there. Then here in the form, you can just remove this action. Since you're working with Livewire, we don't need this. And here, do wire submit dot prevent. I'm gonna make it real time is equals to create category. All right. Next, if you go down, there's an input here. We can make this input wire model name. All right. Next, we can go down in can have children. So in the input here, just after the type wire model here, make it can have children, and also copy this, copy that in here too after the type. All right, next here is it an app dependency? Add another wire model here, app dependency, and then copy this in here and paste it there. All right, that's it. And then also here we're going to have one thing inside here. We're going to query our categories, but we haven't yet created that. So just to test all this, down here you can create a submit button, and you can make this button here class button here, make it width full. That makes out to in here say create category. All right, so now if you refresh, all right, now we have this create category button down here. That's what we're looking for. So now we're going to work on submitting this just to check if it's actually working. Go to your category backend in a Livewire HTTP. In here, go to category. Here, let's create a method or a function. See here like that. Same name as we put in our submit. In here, we're going to dd. Let's output this name. We can create an array for this since it's a lot. Name. This can have children. This app dependency here, and this you have to register it here. Public. Again, public. App dependency. Just copy this to make sure it's correct. Another public. In here, make this one can have children. Copy the same one. We can set default values here. Default is equals to now. Also here, default is equals to now. Alright, so if we go now, try to refresh. Let's now try to create a new category. In here, false. And I noticed an error. We gotta take care of that, and I think I know why. So before we submit, let us go back to our category, the PHP. In here, let us add this to 0. Times 0. True and false may not work for us. So let's go back to our blade. In here, in the can have children, remove this checked on top, add value to 1. Down here on the false, add value to 0. Again, here on app dependency, add another value of 1. Down here, add a value of 0, and then remove this checked. Now, if we go back and try to refresh, all right, so now the default values are false, which is true. And let us try to add electronics there, and then submit. And voila, we have electronics 0, 0. If we try to change this to true, submit, electronics 1, true, and it's working fine. So now let us try to take care of this one down here, of the parent categories. All right, so let's go back. And then in here, we're going to add a few things. So we have to query through the categories. So in here, we're going to create for each, add for each. We have not yet created this, but we're going to create it next. Categories as category. In here, let's just copy one of these and then paste it in here. For all the categories, we're going to here category name inside the now. Here, let us replace this with category name. All right, so now we are going to have to go and create these categories in our backend. So in here, we are in the render, just create this categories is equals to get the category model. In here, models, get all of it, like all the categories. In here, we're going to do with children. This is eager loading, and if you don't know what eager loading is, it just helps us query everything at once so we can not strain our database. Parent, we created these relationships before in our previous videos. All right, so now we're going to get everything. So currently we don't have any categories created, so we're going to create these now. So in here, it's going to give us maybe a now or something. I don't know what's going to happen, but let us just make sure the logic is correct. So here, category, everything, and then just eliminate this, copy this, put it on top. So the first value is now, and then we're gonna query through all the category children as parents rather. And here down the submit button, just add a break line. And also, so now if we go, hopefully there's no error, undefined variable. Oh, we gotta define this on top. In here, Here we're gonna make this available to both the blade and the thing. So here if we refresh, all right, now there's no error now. We're gonna have to add a few values to this choose category parent. In our blade file, let us add one more live wire feature. Wire click. Let's make this add a $ set property. It's a cool feature which you can just set the property direct. In here, full brackets, category ID. For this value, it will be now. All right, so now we have to define category ID on top here. Public category ID. All right, and now here we're also going to have to add this category ID. This category ID. So if we refresh and then click phones here now, you see now we have 4 parameters received. So now let us continue to creating our first category. So here we're just going to comment this out. Next, let us now do a little bit of validation. Here on top, we're gonna define a protected rules. Protected rules. In here, we're gonna add a name, which will be equals to name will be required because we need a name for our category. Next, it should be unique. So this is just simple love or validation. From which table? Categories table. Unique from categories. Alright, so when we first receive this request, we want to validate this validate. Next, after the validation is complete, we now want to create our category. So in here, we're gonna do category type hint, model's category here, create. Open bracket, we're gonna add an array in here. So first we're gonna create the name. Make sure that in brackets, name pointed to this name. Add a comma, not the semicolon. Next is parent ID is equals to, actually we should change this to parent ID. In here, this should be parent ID. So just for more readable, parent ID, this parent ID. So here, copy this. So we're gonna have to change this. Go back to your blade, change this to parent ID, just to make everything readable. Alright, here add a comma. Next, we're gonna add a slug. A slug is gonna come from the title, and we can just make this from the title or the name. Here, go on top here, add this use str from eliminate support. Yeah. So here we're gonna type str slug this name, remove that semicolon. Alright, next parameter is our can have children. This can have children. Remove the semicolon. Next, app dependency is equals to this app dependency. Move that. Add a comma there. Right, so after this is created, next we want to reset our values. This reset, here add a array, name here, and then parent ID. Parent ID also can have children. So copy that, app dependency. Hopefully if everything is correct, we're gonna just have to DD and see the category created. Hopefully there's no error. So if we go back now and refresh, let's try to create one category. Let's call this home, and can have children, yes. Category, none. Alright, so a category has been created now. We now have a category in our database. If you want, you can go back to your database, login here in categories. Yeah, so now we have here home, slug is home, can have children, yes. App dependency, no. Like that. We can now create another one again, tools. Here can have children, false, and parent. As you can see, the parent is even showing up here, the one you created before, like that. So now let us create a new category. Category has been created. If you refresh, it's also showing up here. Like we're successfully creating our category. So now we're now going to set up this query here and also display our categories on this part here.